Hi Sam, I'm Ezelle from the upcoming. It's really lovely to meet you today. Congratulations on the film Genie. It's brilliant. I love it because this time of year it's all the holiday movies start, and this one is particularly brilliant. So perhaps you could start by telling us a little bit about what Genie is all about. What can viewers expect from this festive film?
Thank you so much. Thanks for talking. Yeah, Genie is a Christmas movie. It's a Richard Curtis movie. It's a Melissa McCarthy movie, and the hope is that kind of everything everyone loves about all those different traditions is kind of blended together into one fun, sweet, cozy thing to watch. This holiday season and every holiday season with friends and family and loved ones. I was really excited from the beginning to get to work with Richard and to get to work with Melissa. And obviously, speaking of classic Christmas movies, Richard wrote and directed Love Actually, which, is so much fun to watch every year. And to get to make another Christmas movie with him was really a dream. But it's a family friendly movie set around the holidays, and it's about a guy who's kind of made a little bit of a mess of his life, and then is kind of lucky or unlucky enough, depending on how you look at it, to come into contact with a magical genie, literally. And I think in the tradition of movies like Elf, stuff like that, it's this sort of fish out of water, New York City, magical Christmas kind of wonderland that we tried to create. And yeah, it's just sort of a cozy, fun escape for folks as they gather at the holidays, and we made it, for kids and parents and grandparents and friends and everybody to watch together and enjoy.
No swearing.
No swearing. There's one, depending on it's. I don't know if it's more of a swear word or less of a swear word in England, but there's one. The kid says one word that's a little naughty, but
Oh
it's
yeah,
still
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
still rated PG. So
Right, I know it's the remake of the 1991 film, Bernard and the Genie,
yes,
obviously penned by the brilliant filmmaker Richard Curtis on board with this.
yes.
So why do you think the story needed to be retold, and what was it about this adaptation that made you want to come on board?
I mean, I think, getting to work with Richard obviously sort of was a huge part of the draw, and eventually getting to work with Melissa. And, I love the original movie. And I think, for me, it was about kind of trying to have a few nods to it, obviously, for fans. And so, Alan Cumming is in the movie. He obviously starred in the original, which, when you look back at it, it's really incredible that, it's one of the first things Richard wrote before Four Weddings or Notting Hill or anything. And I believe one of the first things, if not the first thing that Alan Cumming ever starred in. And you have Rowan Atkinson, you have Lenny Henry. It's this kind of incredible cast. And, so yeah, casting Alan in it. And we actually tried, for anyone watching, wondering why just Alan. We tried to have Lenny Henry in it too. Unfortunately, the scheduling didn't work out. But having those kind of Easter egg nods to the original was really important to me. But then I think from there, wanting to kind of take the ball and run with it, the same way, maybe an actor in a play would, not necessarily sit and watch, old performances of other people playing the same character. You kind of want to put that stuff out of your head and focus on your own interpretation. But I think, to me, it's such a timeless story, and one that Richard kind of told in such a funny and unique and poignant way, that it was just kind of ripe for an update. And I think, especially with the sort of, the sort of modern special effects and, all the kind of like fun big movie stuff that we got to take a crack at. It was really a blast to kind of, keep going with that same story.
And I think, like you say, obviously working with Richard Curtis, I mean, I think you'd have to be buried somewhere if you didn't know any of his films. I mean, from Bridget Jones, Love Actually, Four Weddings. I mean, he does this really well. So, what was it like coming on board, collaborating with him? And did you just feel like you're in a really safe pair of hands because he's got the expertise behind him, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Richard and I had a really amazing partnership, and it was so much fun to get to work with him, and I learned so much. I mean, he's it was a masterclass. He's incredible. And he's someone who, again, his influence is just kind of like hard to put into words even. I mean, it's a funny thing. Like, for me, everybody knows and loves him, and even people who don't know that they know him know all his movies and love him. You know what I mean? And like, I had a friend once where I was like, oh, what are your favorite movies? And she was like, oh, Notting Hill, Four Weddings, Bridget Jones, Love Actually. I was like, oh, so you're a huge Richard Curtis fan. And she didn't even know that the same guy made all those movies, but they're literally her four favorite movies of all time. And, I think there's something about that, it's sort of like he's touched everybody, whether they know it or not, and so many of those movies are kind of touchstones for people. And, yeah, I mean, I think he was an amazing collaborator. I think we had a really fun balance of sort of me trying to, again, take what I could from how incredibly talented he is and learn from him, but also kind of put my own stamp on it, a bit of my own stamp, and that, hopefully the collaboration with me and him and Melissa kind of all swirled together, and Papa Essiedu, who played Bernard, we really tried to make it this big collaboration, and it was really fun to do.
Well, talking about, obviously, I know Melissa McCarthy comes on as executive producer as well in this, so she has a big stamp on this. But I mean, and her character, I mean, she, playing the genie in this, her wit, her enthusiasm, we see it in other things that she's played, and she really brings it to the table in this. So, what was it like working with her? I mean, it must have been a blast, really.
Yeah, it was incredible working with Melissa. And, I think she's someone who obviously is so funny and I think is known, I think especially like the improv and the kind of spontaneity that she's able to bring to the comedy, which is incredible. But I also think, one of the things about her that I really love is she's an incredible dramatic actor. And I think a lot of my favorite comedic actors that end up, she was in a movie called Can You Ever Forgive Me that, is I think really funny in a sort of small way, but is, generally a drama. She was nominated for an Oscar for it, and she's unbelievable. And I think whether it's, Robin Williams or Jim Carrey or a lot of beloved comedians who have kind of gone into more dramatic terrain, there is an incredible kind of blend of, everything that's funny is kind of grounded in this pathos and this kind of poignancy, and everything that is kind of more dramatic has this kind of light touch and this kind of lack of self-seriousness. And so I think, it's sort of like a yin and yang or something, where those things really aid each other and help each other. And obviously our movie's a comedy, but because it's a Richard, movie too, a Richard Curtis movie, there's obviously real heart and real emotion and a kind of grounded core to it. And so, getting to work with Melissa as someone who can strike that balance was really important. It was amazing to watch her do it. And I'm excited for everyone to see in the movie itself, because it's just a joy.
And obviously, you shot in New York. So, what was that like? Did you close most of it down for some of the shoots? What was it like being there?
Shooting in New York's amazing. It's funny. We didn't shut anything down really, because New York is so busy. It's a funny place where it's sort of like they don't really care if you're making a movie or not. Like it's a lot of the time, you'll be somewhere else and people stop and they go, "Oh my God, you're shooting a movie." And in New York, they're like, "I'm late for work, get out of my way," and they'll like walk across the set or something. And unless you have like a ton of money, it's a Spider-Man movie or something like that, generally you can't afford to shut it down anyway. So but that was a lot of what I love about it, is being able to bring the kind of life of the city into the movie, and being able to really be out in the streets and capturing that, and kind of creating this like Christmas in New York feeling that I think everybody knows, and is just such a kind of cozy thing to hang out in for an hour and a half. And getting to lean into the landmarks and think, New York's a place I've spent a lot of time. I've been really lucky to shoot there. This was my kind of my third thing I directed there. And a lot of stuff isn't that lucky. They don't get to shoot there, so they have to shoot in other places and pretend it's New York. But I went to college there and I love it a lot. And so every time I shoot there, I just am like, we gotta just take it, every possible advantage of the fact that we're actually here, and use every inch of it, and use places that are meaningful to me, and that, are maybe a little more off the beaten path, but still feel like the city, and all that. It was really fun to get to do that again.
No, and I think that also in that her running around the store with Bernard and wearing all these crazy different outfits, she's a star. One minute she's got a popcorn bag, or those little dog bags or whatever. I mean, it's really, really it's really fun to see her change up her character in all these crazy outfits. And I think I read somewhere that Richard was hoping that maybe like the plaid one would end up as being this iconic outfit that people would want to buy in the shop. So it must be really fun. Well, what were those kind of moments like with her? Any kind of standout scenes during that kind of time when she's swapping up her outfits?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was so fun and obviously created a lot of amazing visual interest across the movie. Melissa's someone who started in improv comedy, and that was, one of the other things I really loved about working with her is, she started at this place called The Groundlings in Los Angeles that's sort of a famous, where people get discovered for SNL and stuff like that. Will Ferrell went there, and, it's these sort of improv classes people take in LA. And, and she still, in the best possible way, has that sort of spirit, and it's a little bit of that. I would joke that it was a little bit of like a Muppet show, like let's put on a show and where's the wardrobe chest kind of feeling. And and I think for her, so much of what was so fun about playing the character for her was the fact that it's like, okay, it's a genie, so she can do that. I mean, what other movie would she be able to do that in? It's the sort of, it's only in the movie where you're playing a genie who can grant unlimited wishes that you can, if that you can kind of have the opportunity to really go for broke with that stuff in a way that's so fun for the audience and was so fun for me as a filmmaker to get to be a part of, because obviously in Can You Ever Forgive Me or any other movie, it would be quite jarring for her to suddenly have a popcorn bag or something like that. So yeah, I think to me, the promise of the movie for an audience and what's really fun about watching it, I think, is the idea of unlimited wishes, that there's this kind of new mythology Richard created, that as opposed to just having 3 wishes, that everyone, knows in the kind of classic genie story, this character, the wishes are unlimited, and so the kind of joy and the magic is boundless. And I think likewise with Melissa's outfits, with Flora's outfits, that's boundless too. And there's just kind of, I think to me, the fact that, the promise of the movie is that sort of totally unrestricted joy and surprise and this kind of unique fun. It was a really cool visual way across the movie to keep reminding the audience, like, hey, anything can happen in this movie. Anything can happen, and in the blink of an eye, in the snap of a fingers, the snap of one's fingers. Yeah, it was awesome.
I think, also saying that, it also brings it up to something quite modern as well, because I mean, all the romantic tropes the genie conjures up, doesn't really lead down the route that the viewers would normally expect. And it makes it more realistic. The roses and a cute dinner don't always make a relationship, right? So was it kind of fun to bring it to a more, that kind of those tropes of a Christmas film and rom-com to a more modern audience?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, obviously, genies aren't necessarily connected to Christmas, but obviously I think the connection Richard saw is Christmas is when people really are wishing for things, and obviously everyone wishes for stuff all the time and wants things to materialize or be fixed or be different or whatever, and so it's this kind of great metaphor. It was really fun to kind of update it and have the wishes manifest in ways that felt sort of modern and fun and weird and surprising and to get to kind of put that fresh spin on it.
And also I think the fact that the wishes, they're not always perfect, and that is something that I think we've really seen in something that you've done before. We did Love Life, and we see that those relationships, and when you did that series, it really showed that things aren't always perfect. You don't always make the right decision. And that really comes through. Did you have quite a lot of input in that? Because that feels like you're kind of little, I don't know, feels a bit like you'll stamp on that a bit as well.
That's very sweet. I mean, I think, that was, I think, definitely something that was in Richard's script always. And I think what's great about his work and I appreciate you bringing up Love Life and stuff, because, it was definitely what I was trying to do there is to capture the kind of messiness of life. Obviously, they're very different. Love Life is just, it's not for kids. And it's, about relationships and all that kind of stuff. And, and it sounds like a joke, but honestly, Love Life is what Richard saw that made him want me to be the person who directed this movie. And I think, something we kind of talked about and that I thought about always was like, what would it be like? It sounds silly, but it's like, what if you treated it like Love Life, but then also there was a genie in it, and how do you kind of let that kick things up a notch and make it this kind of big family friendly movie thing, but that the base level of it is still this thing that an audience can believe and invest in. And yeah, with the wishes, I think part of that is the genius of Richard coming up with this kind of unlimited wishes as opposed to three wishes kind of thing. Because then the second that happens, you get to, wish for the wrong thing and undo it. And, there's a sort of, there's obviously stakes to the fact that, wishing for the wrong thing can turn out badly. I mean, there's a moment where a character, says to another, I wish you'd go to hell, without thinking that, that might be taken literally. So there's a lot of fun to be had, I think, in the movie with, the sort of semantics of wishing almost, and the unintended consequences. You get this kind of wall to wall, like I was saying with the the outfits and everything, this kind of wall to wall, anything goes kind of craziness and fun, that you don't get in a sort of just the classic Three Wishes genie story.
And I think, like you say, with the wishes, they take this story, sort of make it into epic proportions, because there are no limits now. They can do whatever, they can conjure whatever. So were there any sort of challenges during filming for you because of that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there were times I would joke, obviously it was really fun to do, but it's like when you're, when you have like when there's unlimited wishes, you end up with all these effects and all this crazy stuff that's really fun to watch in the final movie. But I would joke, like when I was on set, I was like, oh, that's why Richard didn't want to direct this one, because he had to figure out how to get a camel into an apartment. He was like, I'll leave that to you, young man. Or in the magic carpet and all this kind of stuff that, had to get figured out, but was really fun to figure out. But I often would joke like, oh, that's why he just wanted to write this one. But yeah, I mean, definitely when, for instance, there's a sequence in the middle of the movie where his family comes to visit, and it's this kind of like wish bonanza, all these wishes, and there were even more, that we shot that aren't in the final cut. And so that was really fun, but it was definitely a challenge to figure out, how do we shoot all this economically? How do we get, the kind of, the level of kind of authenticity and performances that I'm after, while also, making it so that all this magic can happen. And it was a challenge, but it was really fun to figure out.
And what do you hope from watching this the viewers will take away from this?
One of the things I loved about this movie from the very beginning, from the script Richard wrote, was just the simplicity of its message, which is, that the only thing that matters is spending time with the people you love. And I think, that's obviously been, a kind of takeaway from many of the stories Richard has told, I think especially About Time, which is a favorite of mine. And he's right. I do think, I think that's one of the things that I love, that, without giving anything away, everything we're talking about, the kind of chaos of all the fun of this movie, and all the wishes and all the crazy stuff that happens, and, camels in the living room and ponies in Central Park and all this kind of stuff, you get all that craziness, but then ultimately what the story comes to, and I think the idea we're trying to leave audiences with is just the simplicity of, really what matters is spending time with the people you love, and anything else you can wish for is sort of just a distraction. It's just a big crazy thing, and you got to just spend time with people while you can.
Oh, thank you very much. That's a very heartwarming message.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to speak to you. Wonderful film. I'm sure everyone will love it as much as me. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.